Yahoo Finance investors were polled and gave us some of their predictions for the markets into 2023. And then there were some intriguing ideas about who will make and lose money and what might be different by the end of next year. So here to break down some of those responses, we've got Yahoo Finance senior columnist Rick Newman. Take us into the Newmaverse and what we got in some of these responses.
Yeah, we got thousands of responses. So we've asked some basics about where do you think markets will be, where do you think inflation will be next year. Our audience expects modest improvements in the S&P and the NASDAQ, single-digit gains there. In general, our audience does think we're going to have a short and mild recession at the beginning of the year, but they're very optimistic about what the end of the year might bring. So in addition to just asking things like where do you think inflation is going to be, the stock indexes, we asked just an open-ended question, blank sheet of paper, fill in the blank. Tell us what do you think the big story, the big business and economic stories will be next year. And then I scanned through almost 4,000 of those to figure out some of the recurring themes. And I've got a couple of them for you here. So first of all, lots of our audience members think the second half of the year we're going to see a nice bounce in stock markets. We're going to be beyond whatever the little itty bitty recession is that comes at the beginning of 23, and inflation will be under control. So maybe around 4% or so, let's say. So that is a pretty good scenario for markets, I think, as long as it seems like we're finally going to get to the point where interest rate hikes aren't determining everything.
Rick, yeah, all that work paid off. This is now on the top 10 most viewed or looked at or read stories on Yahoo Finance right now. So hat tip to you, Rick.
Well, hat tip to our audience because they actually we have very smart readers,
yes,
and I like to know what's on their mind a lot of the times.
Where are they thinking about on tech stock to that point? I mean, a lot of these viewers and investors on our platform, they log in, they check Apple, they check Amazon, Google. Yep. These are the only stocks they have historically owned, and they've all been battered this year. Yeah.
So another recurring theme in this open-ended two I'll give you here. So I've got 11 predictions I put together on a story that's on the site right now. But we do have a significant number of Yahoo Finance people who think big tech will make a comeback. The big tech play is not over, even though the NASDAQ has gotten hammered this year more than the broader stock market. But they say, look, Apple's dominance is not over, Microsoft's dominance is not over. And then one other prediction, we just had an investor telling us he's short Meta. I didn't hear him say he's short the metaverse. He said he's short Meta. But we have some audience members who say the metaverse is finally going to catch on in 2023. Now, I think it depends how you define metaverse. So I'm not sure you two guys are going to be wearing VR goggles at the desk here by the end of 2023.
Hold on, let me get mine from my
Maybe 2025, I don't know. But I like what our investor said just in the prior segment. He said, the metaverse is not necessarily going to be this cartoonish idea where people are sitting around with these VR goggles and somehow they're in a conference room in Hong Kong, that it's going to have more to do with better ways to do social media and stuff like that. And that's actually what I saw in some of these comments, that social media is going to have problems, like look at what's happening to Twitter, right. And that's an opportunity for the metaverse to come in and offer something better.
As long as we're all not replaced by some artificial intelligence deepfake, then that's perfectly fine, I think.
I guess.
Careers.
I feel like it's coming, but hopefully not next year.
Let's keep that at bay for now. But when we think about next year and kind of bringing together where you continue to cover in what's happening inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and where that overlaps in terms of equity markets and just public policy relating to business practice as well. What did some of the readers kind of put together or at least correlate between?
Well, let me bring it back to inflation. Because we saw, in a way, the craziest inflation we saw this year was in used cars. Mm-hmm. First half of the year, we saw used car inflation as high as 40%. So one of the things that came through in all these open-ended comments was we're going to see the opposite, the mirror image effect in 2023, which is a plunge in used car prices. Perhaps back to where back to levels they were before all this craziness happened because of a new car shortage. So, Saj, you might get to add to your collection in 2023.
This only fuels the debate on our worst company of the year, which you covered, Rick.
Yeah, which was Carvana. Yes. And it's not so much because of what's happening in the used car market per se. Carvana got way too far over its skis, made an acquisition, took on too much debt, but also did not prepare for what could be a really sharp reversal in used car sales next year. So a buying opportunity. And then one last one I thought was really interesting. A lot of people think the electrical vehicle revolution, EVs, is overplayed. and that we're going to see the EV revolution stall. It's going to turn out that we're not going to go all the way to EVs as fast as people think. It's the fact that they tend to be expensive, limited range, and rising electricity prices, by the way.
So the return of the naturally aspirated V12.
Or sure. So that's what you're going to buy on Carvana is next year is a Bugatti V12. Okay, sure. That's where I was going with this.
There'll be plenty of them there for you.
But, look what's happening at Tesla stock to end the year. And we're seeing Lucid and Rivian, look at those stocks struggling. So we have a lot of investor-minded, investors using our site who are looking at all this and saying, maybe that's one of the things that's going to happen in 2023. The EV revolution stalls, at least for a period of time.
Well, great stuff, Rick Newman.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. Please do give Rick's story a big read here and a big share. Rick, appreciate it.